Well, so those were our summaries tonight. We are looking to also have a conversation about our climate as the Africa Climate Week celebration comes to an end this week. We'll have an in-depth discussion on that one. But first, some news from the agri sector. The Peasant Farmers Association has raised concerns about the Ministry of Food and Agriculture's pursuit of greenhouse farming. According to the programs officer of the association, Charles Nyaba, the greenhouse technology is expensive and not suitable for agriculture in Ghana. His comments come on the back of recent calls by the Ministry of Food and Agriculture for private investors to get into greenhouse farming with support from government.
In addition to 3 operational greenhouse centers in Dawenya, Kaswa and Akomadan, the Ministry for Food and Agriculture says it has imported some greenhouse facilities. It is therefore urging private investors to come on board and invest in greenhouse farming to boost vegetable production in the country. Similarly, there's an ongoing partnership with Israel to train agri graduates in greenhouse technology to help manage and run greenhouse farms. However, touching on the developments, programs officer of the Peasant Farmers Association said the technology is expensive and unsustainable.
Look, why are Israel and all those countries do green farming? Because they don't have the space, the land size is not there to farm. In Ghana, our problem is not about the land to farm. Our problem has to do with availability of water. If you take greenhouse facility, amount of water required for you to be able to operate it, it's not easy. Now, apart from the water, the seeds, the planting material for greenhouse are all imported. It's not like the farmer can just go to the market and go and buy these seeds to use for the green. It's a special seed for a greenhouse facility. So you recount that if you visit most people who started with greenhouse technology, they have abandoned it because they couldn't manage it.
He, however, urged the Ministry of Agriculture to provide simple resources for local farmers to help them increase their production.
Why can't we put that money to actually look at the areas that we are struggling? We need simple boreholes, simple duckouts. Farmers need to be able to access seeds, simple planting materials. All these things are not done. But because Israel are doing it, we also want to go into do it. After doing it, would the farmers be supported to buy the greenhouse facilities? If they are supported, would they be supported with resources to manage them, to get water, to get the seeds to continue to do that? And how many farmers will be able to acquire these facilities? So to me, I think it's a misplaced priority.
Greenhouse farming is a system of growing crops under controlled environments in enclosed structures. For Joy Business, Sheila Tamaklo.
Now, Country Director of GIZ, Alan Walsh, has described the first Upper West Agribusiness Conference and Fair as a great success. Speaking to Joy Business, Mr. Walsh noted that discussions at the conference were frank, and he's of the belief that it will boost agribusiness in the region and enhance productivity, income and jobs along the value chain. JoyNews' Upper West correspondent Rafiq Salam reports.
Country Director of GIZ, Alan Walsh, first spoke of the reason why the first Upper West Agribusiness Conference and Fair was held under the Market-Oriented Agriculture Program, MOAP, being implemented by GIZ in collaboration with the Upper West Regional Coordinating Council. The event was co-funded by the European Union and the German Cooperation.
As a fair and a conference to come into dialogue and to mark a point or to give a milestone of development. Fairs, conferences always draw the attention on specific issues, on movements, on development. And this is what we wanted to initiate with this first agribusiness fair and conference here in WAP.
Alan Walsh was happy with the way things panned out at the conference and fair, describing it as a big success.
I'm very happy. I think it was a big success to organize with big efforts this conference, and the participation showed a very big response, and the discussions we had were very fruitful.
He noted that the close cooperation between Ghana and Germany has grown tremendously, adding that it could be termed as friendship.
Well, there is a positive future of development, and we are a partner of this. We want to achieve development. We want to participate in the development process, and that the livelihoods of people.
Reporting for JoyBusiness, Rafiq Salam. Wow.
Now, a number of youth groups across Africa, with support from some farmer-based civil society organizations, have impressed on African governments the need to stop paying lip service and take immediate action on climate change at the ongoing Africa Climate Week in Accra. The group, led by the Ghana Youth Environmental Movement, marched on the streets to protest. They say it is time governments and policymakers moved into action-oriented programs to mitigate the impact of climate change. Prince Apia was there in our reports.
What do you want? When do you want it? Now. What do you want?
So we are currently
when do you want it? Now.
Part of the climate march,
We go.
part of the African Climate Week,
What do you want?
and this is made up of a number of youth organizations, environmental organizations from across Africa.
We go. What do you want? Climate justice. Now.
So the walk started from the Holy Trinity Cathedral in Accra through some principal streets.
We go. Climate justice. We go.
The aim was to tell African government that enough of the talking.
Action starts now.
Why is it necessary for action to start now?
Because we sign on Paris Agreement and we don't follow it. We allow a lot of things to happen to our climate, and we are here to let them know that the youth are ready to stand for the change, and we want that change now.
Well, for us, we want the voices of the civil society heard, and also the youth, because this is the generation that we are saving the planet for, so we want a future. And that is why we are keen on incorporating the voice of the young people in.
What do you want? Climate justice. What do you want? Climate justice.
This march is very, very, very important because it's the climax of the Africa Climate Week celebration. And we want the whole world to contribute.
So gradually, we are almost at the Accra Conference Center, where these youth groups are going to hand over a petition to the leaders at the meeting, the African Climate Week ongoing.
What do you want? Climate justice. What do you want it? Now. What do you want? Climate justice. Supporting innovative adaptation and mitigation activities of youth groups and organizations, and support social and environmental enterprises for sustainability. Pay attention to the needs of more vulnerable and marginalized groups in policy formulation.
Climate change is real.
Yes.
And we need an action. And we need that action now.
Executive Director of PACJA, Mithika Mwenda, commended the group for their bold action.
I have a lot of confidence with you and the movement which is germinating from today. Let us not end as an event today. Let this become the beginning of the growth of the movement which is going to change this world.
We go!
We go! We go!
What do you want?
Climate justice!
What do you want?
Prince
Climate
Apia.
justice!
All right, and so that Africa Week, Climate Week celebrations, that event has come to an end. I should point out, and joining me in studio, as I promised, is Prince Apia for some more discussion about climate change. Thanks for your time tonight, Prince, and great to see you. This time you're not in Kumasi, you're in Accra now. Now let's start with why this is an important issue, because we've heard people talk about climate change a lot, and we seem to think that it is distant. How big an issue is it?
It is very big. In a basic sense, in recent times, you would attest to the fact that temperature is changing. A lot of things are changing around us. we are getting to a point where it's difficult for the rains to come, and it's affecting our agricultural productivity. It's affecting, for instance, our cocoa industry, for instance. For a long period of time now, you're unable to meet our annual target. All is because our weather is changing, and the farmers and policymakers and stakeholders are now supposed to inject a lot of effort in agri production to get their crops the yield that they expect to meet, because it's affecting almost everything across the divide, from agri to every business to water to everything.
And so of course, it's going to have an impact on our economy. And we've seen the youth groups there asking for immediate action. What kind of actions are they asking government to, implement?
So basically, in 2016, during the Paris Climate Agreement, it was one of the major things for every signatory countries to limit temperature rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius. And for a period of time now, it's been difficult, and monitoring proceedings, stakeholders have realized that they are unable to meet this particular target that they put to themselves. These youth are saying that enough of the talk. There's been a lot of talk shops around climate change for a long time. What they are saying that government should put in measures where now we are going to move from the normal agriculture that we do into what they call the agroecology, which means that farming is going to be very sustainable. And now we go back to the ways where we are not using agrochemicals, we are not using pesticides, we are allowing the land to till itself, what they call the no-till farming. And these things will help sustain and maintain the soil fertility, address the issue of soil organisms dying, and allow a lot of farmers to meet the target that they set out to.
So these youth groups that we saw are from countries across the continent. Let's speak about the Ghanaian situation and whether or not our government is taking action in the wake of concerns about climate change. You've been following this beat for a while now. Do you get the sense that somebody is listening?
Yeah, at least we've seen that a lot of young people have started, starting businesses that are eco-friendly. A lot of, we did a story recently where a young guy is using, waste tires. Exactly. So we realized that the young guys, the youth these days have decided to take up the mantle and address it themselves.
But those are the youth.
Yeah.
How about the government side of it?
Keep giving a lot of promises. And at the talk, for instance, the government officials that came there gave a lot of promises. One thing that came up is that they need a lot of finance, what they call the climate finance. And they believe that when a lot of such money comes into the country, they'll be able to implement.
I was going to ask you about that, climate financing, because that has come up at the celebrations that we have seen this week. What is it?
Yeah, it's a pool of fund that most of the signatory countries, most of the investors who are interested in helping, keep the environment as it is, protecting the environment, have decided to put together. And one of the major investors is the African Development Bank, and they are injecting a lot of money. So from 2016 to 2018, for instance, they had invested close to about $8 billion in climate finance. So it's a pool of money there. Anybody who is putting up any innovation that is related to protecting the environment, any business at all, can access that fund and use it. And now what they are doing is that the African Development Bank had increased that particular fund to $20 billion.
That sounds
from
great.
2020 to 2025.
Yeah, that sounds great. Stay with me a while. I want to pull up our poll for tonight because we've been asking about climate change, and just to get a sense as to whether or not people are really concerned about the impact of climate change on our livelihood. So there you see it, Prince. 33% say they don't think about it at all, and 67% say they do very much care. Now, I'm surprised. This poll was commissioned just a few hours ago, and I'm surprised that people actually really do care, because you don't get that sense here in the country. Yeah, about an hour ago, I'm told. So just finally, your thoughts on that. That sounds pretty cool, that people are really beginning to think about climate change.
Yeah, that's impressive.
And do you think that we are making an impact talking about this, I mean, coming from the conference this week?
I think it's the first step. First step is education, and if we start the conversation and we keep the conversation going, a lot of people get to understand what we really mean by climate change, how we can all, in a small way, protect our environment and put in measures to ensure that we also go into, green economy, as they call it, businesses that are targeted at protecting the environment, and we'll be okay.
Interesting conversation with you, Prince Appiah. Thanks very much for your time tonight. You're still watching Business Live. Now, placing additional tariffs on goods imported that can't be produced locally is among measures identified to help deal with seasonal depreciation of the Ghana cedi. Speaking on the business edition of PM Express, economist Professor Eric Osei said the Bank of Ghana should also look at reviewing multinationals' profit repatriation processes.
Control, tighten up our capital inflows and outflows. We have to have some restrictions. We cannot just allow foreigners to come and own our bonds anyhow. And once you allow more bonds to be held by foreigners, your economy becomes very sensitive and very vulnerable to external shocks. So anything happening outside, you see them moving their funds quickly out of your economy, and that can also crash your currency. So there should be some restrictions in terms of capital flows. I think the central bank now must move towards a more managed floating exchange rate rather than allowing the free fall of the currency without much intervention, because we live in a situation where our productive base is very weak. So we have huge trade imbalance, which then means that at all times you see pressure on the currency, right? You cannot just allow the demand pressures to weaken the currency every now and then. So the central bank must also strategically position itself and build enough reserve buffers so that at any given time, particularly when it's getting to the seasonal times where the demand is high, last quarter and then the first quarter, the central bank can have the ability to intervene to actually manage the flow, to manage the exchange.
Well, despite the impressive performance of the cedi against some other international currencies, some professional students from the University of Ghana Business School say the cedi's earlier performance took a toll on them, as they say the cedi is only doing well against the dollar and not the pound sterling. They spoke with Charles Aite.
I do have here with me Charles and Solomon, as well as Clement. They're going to be sharing with us their thoughts on this whole issue of the cedi.
I had to convert the cedis into pounds. Well, it was a cry to them actually, because they were very willing to help me pass or write the paper, but when it came to the part where I had to convert the cedis to pounds, and talking about pounds being 1 pound to 6 points.
I mean, one of the strongest currencies that we have.
I mean, and they weren't ready to accept any cedi, so I had to convert it. Even the trouble of conversion was hell.
So sometimes it delays the process of you having to access the education, right? What about, I'm going to come back to you, but what about you, Solomon?
I think for those doing ACC, actually did ICA, those doing ACC who have to pay in pounds, you are paying in pounds, the pound rate is rising, and then your parents are earning the same. Like it's a very big crisis in the family, considering that we all go by the motivation, keep trying. And you know, some of these professional courses are very tough. You need to balance doing the professional courses and balance your study here in school, and then you end up failing. Like it's a lot of traumatic experience for students.
So the trickle-down effect is, you know, most students failing their professional papers.
Yes, so once they fail, they're like, oh, so I'm going to pay this amount again. And moreover, the parity is not remaining the same, like the rate is not remaining the same, and it's always increasing, and so you are always feeling that trauma.
So you're in class, but you're thinking about what happens to the cedi tomorrow. Anyways, Charles, so help us with the exact amount. How much do most professional students pay in terms of the pounds sterling?
Okay, we could be looking at no less than £100, I would say.
£100?
Yes, £100. Yeah.
Okay.
So if you are doing the conversion and you have, let's say, 3 cedi is to £1, which is like 300 cedis, is to £100. I would say that was previously then. But right now you're looking at 6.8. You can see the difference.
700 cedis.
It's really hell.
Just hearing the fact that you need to convert or pay in pounds is a discouraging factor. It discourages the others. So it's actually a general plight for students with this cedi depreciation.
Your final thoughts, Solomon, on this particular topic, the impact it's having on professional students?
As a country, I believe that if we're supposed to move forward, and right now I think I believe we are in an era of knowledge sharing or selling knowledge. I believe that the country can move forward if we have more professionals, but if this is happening, then it means that the rate of having professionals is going to reduce, and then as a country are still going to be down there going to seek knowledge outside, because I believe knowledge is one of the commodities that you can trade without having a raw material yourself. And so if this rate issue is causing students to back out of entering into the professional field,
it's something that we'll have to be concerned about.
It's a very big problem.
Gentlemen, let's now end up with the solutions. I mean, we have started with our impressions about the city. We delved into how it's impacting us personally. But what do you think would be the solutions that we could, profile in terms of the city's performance?
Well, I really follow current news a lot. I read last year's budget where our exports showed a positive surplus, like it was a surplus. Solution would be the government employing more products or more resources into local industries, creating of local industries, more indigenous country industries for the country.
That we have to check our import-export ratios. But I believe that as a country, we cannot stop foreign direct investment into the country. So by all means, we may be having situations of profit repatriation and etc. But I believe that even with our exports, we should rather focus on adding more value to what we export than just exporting them raw like that. I think there was a video article some time ago where a chocolate was shown to a cocoa farmer and was asked, well, what is this? He was like, I don't know. So I believe we should consider the things we have more comparative advantage in producing, and then we should add value to them before we export.
And when you look at America, most of the companies in America are being ruled by Chinese. Yes, to they trade in the dollar. If you go to the UK, it's the same thing. When it comes to Ghana, people value to trade in the dollar more than the cedi. You get it? So if you are looking at the government side, we should be looking at the individuals too. We should have the great desire to demand for the cedi. The more we value our cedi, the more it hits the market, and the more we are able to match the cedi against the foreign countries. Currency.
Great. Charles, Solomon, Clement, thank you very much, gentlemen.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Analysis. So you did hear the side of the argument in terms of the best ways by which we could arrest the depreciation of the city. The effect is not really that significant when it comes to the pricing across the regional market. So we shall be engaging most of these people. We shall be getting their views on this to help us understand where we stand currently in terms of the city's strength against major currencies across the world.
Well, one thing for sure, we are not seeing an end to the conversation around the city anytime soon. That's it for our program tonight. Thanks for watching. My name is Darryl Kwao. There's more news on our website, joybusinessnews.com. Enjoy your weekend.